Oh boy.
And
Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey's 3-point shooting, as we know, has gotten better and better and better every year. Well, Kyle, there might be some other 3-point shooters out there on this basketball team now, man. Fire it up, big fella. Fire it up.
Andre Drummond, sniper? Question mark. Yeah, I mean, so listen, I saw, well, we all saw Andre Drummond take some post practice threes with Yabusele, who, frankly, Guerschon looked pretty good in a post practice setting as a shooter. As always, I remind people that I've seen a lot of bad shooters make a lot of threes in a practice setting, so you don't read too far into it. But
I will say though, and I agree with you, and I wrote
shoot.
that I wrote about that exact thing today, allphly.com. The one exception where I will read a tiny bit into things is with Guerschon, just because you've got that line that's a foot and a half longer. It's one thing, like he still has to answer whether or not he can make that, against NBA competition, and that jump from the ACB to the NBA is going to be significant. But you also want to see, because he was sort of like his shooting was a line hugger type of 3-point shooter. You want to see whether or not that can translate to that foot and a half longer line. So making some shots here, you don't read too much into it, but I read a tiny bit more than, say, if, let's say, Kelly was making shots, because Kelly, we mostly know what he has been able to do at an NBA level.
yeah, and so I followed up with Andre after practice on this, where I know from talking to some people that it's something he worked on during the summer, and you never know really when guys get to camp where they're with trainers, they're with their own people during a lot of the summer, and it's like, okay, so how much of what we're seeing right now is a you driven thing versus a team driven thing? And so I asked him if the team had told him, like, hey, this is a thing we want you to think about and work on. And Andre was pretty straightforward, where he said, anything that I do is just, what are the coaches asking me to do? What is this team asking me to do? And he was very clear that the first, second, and third thing for him is be a solid defensive guy, be an elite rebounder, which he's been his whole career. And those are your bread and butter things. But if occasionally he needs to step out and hit a shot, and he's in that sort of situation, that you can assume, if you see him putting up shots, that it's something that came directly from the coaching staff. And so we've talked during the offseason about how pleased we've been, or, how much improvement Andre has made as that backup guy, right? Like making that difficult transition. And I think that gives you a window, like that sort of answer, into why he's excelled in this role, right? Like that he has truly embraced, like, you need me to do this, then that's my focus. You want me to try to expand my game in this way, I'm going to put the reps in. I'm going to do this until you tell me, or unless you tell me to stop. And so I just think it's such a refreshing attitude to hear from a guy who frankly could have let his ego derail his career, right? Like when he kind of topped out as a big money starter and had to make that transition into more of a depth player or role player. We've seen guys with, frankly, better careers than Andre fail to do that. Allen Iverson's the guy who always jumps out at me, former MVP of the league, who was washed out of it by, his early 30s. And for Andre to have the presence of mind to get into this mode, I think says a lot about him. And I think hopefully that is the type of mentality and attitude that this whole team will have, right? Like team before self. In Joel's case that we were just talking about, Tyrese or the other guys before him, like I'm giving myself up for other people and looking at, how do I lift these other guys up? How do I adjust my game to make them better? I think that's such a great approach to have coming into camp. And obviously we'll see if it holds up over time, but it's something that I am encouraged by here on October 1st at Atlantis in the Bahamas.
We all silly like the mayor.